In this video, we're going to be going over COP troubleshooting with an iBox from MCE. If you're getting an error from COP bus communication 1, 2, 3, or 4, in this video, we're going to go over checking voltages, communication cables, dip switch settings on the actual COP boards to see if they're communicating with the car top board or with the next COP board that's in line. Also connecting iView to the car, and then check the parameters settings on the actual iView to see if all that is good. So stay tuned. Alright, so first we're going to start with checking COP connections. One thing I always like to go for first is checking the voltages on the actual COP boards. So right here in the bottom left corner, you want to make sure that you have your plus 24 volts DC to common. Want to make sure that those aren't connected to 120 volts AC or DC, as that could damage the boards. Next thing I like to check are, if this is a startup job, is the dip switches on the COP boards. There's been times where we would send them out with dip switches 7 and 8. That way they can work with our test department before they get shipped. But let's make sure they are all beginning set correctly to the off position as it shows right here on the prints. So we are working with only the fault COP bus communication 1. So if you're having a car top board communication, there's another video on that as well in the YouTube video playlist. You want to take a look at that if you're a car top communication. But right now we're just dealing with COP bus communication 1. So here we're going to have an example of our car top prints. So here on the prints we see COP bus communication 1, so COP1. So out of COP1 port on the actual car top board, you have that RJ11 cable going to ICE motion in on the COP board, on your main COP board. It's usually the one with your fire phase switches or fire phase switch 2, your main door open button, main door close button. And out of that main COP board, you have another cable going out of ICE EXP out, which would be a C Ethernet beige 16-inch here, going to the next COP board into ICE EXPN. Okay, it's been many times before where startup jobs, we have it going from COP1 to ICE EXPN. You want to make sure that that's correctly seated in there. So again, here on the left side, from COP1 on the car top board goes to ICE motion in. Okay. Out of that main COP board with the door hold open and door close button, you got ICE EXP out going into ICE EXP in on that next board. Okay. So next thing, so the system, if you're getting COP bus communication 1 fault and you checked voltages, you checked dip switches on the diagnostic dip switches right here on the COP board. Next thing you can do is connect iView to the car. So here I don't have a car to connect to, but I'm just going to check the edit file. So you're just going to go to, on you guys are just going to connect to your actual car that you're connected to. So you go to file connection open, you guys are going to connect iView to the card that's having the COP bus communication failure. And you're going to go to View, Configuration, I/O boards. It's going to look different on yours because you guys are going to have the operational status screen on the very first screen when you connect iView to the car. So here we're on I/O boards. Might look different on your end, but we're going to go to COP1. Remember, COP1 is looking right now on your prints is looking for 2 boards. So you're going to have 2 boards here. So another thing to check as well is your configuration. So here you have your ICOP board 1 with the main door open and close button. You want to click the first one here and click View and make sure that this is the COP board with your actual main door open button and main door close button. Then the next board above it is going to be that next board in line. So if you see a mixed up here and you see this board with your door hold and door open button or your close button, then what you can do is just highlight it and press down and then send it on the iView after you acquire your write privileges. You want to make sure they're in the correct order as well because it's looking for that ICE motion in first to that first board, and out of that main board goes to ICE EXP out to ICE EXP in on the next board. What I like to do too is to troubleshoot to see if it's an issue with the next board in line is I would take a board, I would view it, I would take a picture of the programming on that COP board. I would then delete it, send it, and then for temporary purposes only, I would disconnect ICE EXP out of that main board to ICE EXP in on the next board, and then send it again. And then if you get rid of that fault, then we know we have an issue with that cable from that main COP board to the next COP board, or that next COP board might be the issue as well. You can also do swap it. You can also program it in here and try the other COP board as your main, as long as you have that one COP board programmed in here. As long as you guys know where to go in the iView to verify your programming, your COP boards, and how the configuration works in there. Same thing if you guys are getting COP bus communication too. Check here, check your main COP, check the next board in line. Make sure out of that COP2 port goes into ICE motion in on that next board. But it'll be different on your guys' prints, just giving you guys a heads up on what to look for. Another thing I like to check here is, I'll go to training. Pause it real quick. All right. You guys could also use your diagnostic dip switches as well on the COP boards to see if you're having communication with the previous board, with the next board in line, or even communication with the car top board. So you can kind of get an idea if it's an issue with your cable, with the port on the COP boards, or even the car top board has an issue as well. So you would set your 2 bottom dip switches 1 and 2 on your COP boards. All right. So if the inputs here and the IOs, if 1 and 2 are blinking, that means you're sending and receiving signals from the actual car top board. So that's a good start there. If IO 4 and 5 are blinking, that means that this board is communicating with the preceding board. If IO 7 and 8 are on, that means COP board, then that means you're having a good connection with the next board in line. Okay. Then you can also see if it's a power supply issue, your plus V in common. So usually on most startup jobs, you'll have your voltages, your power supply, or coming off your transformer on top of in the car top station, going into the plus V in common. And out of that COP board, main COP board, you just have it pigtailed to the next COP board in line. So out of that same one, plus V in common, you just take it on over to the next plus 24 in common. So set all dip switches off. LEDs will scroll upwards if 33 volts DC or greater is detected between the plus V and common. Under voltage, it'll scroll downwards if you have 18 volts DC or less if detected between plus V and common. So you check. So here we went through checking voltages, dip switches, connections, communication, iView, programming. Let's say you're still having luck, you swap boards around, you swap cables around, everything away from the car top board. Ultimately, it could be the actual car top board itself. It's rare, but in this instance, it could happen. So what I like to do is to go into iView. You would have boards in here. So I would just delete the boards from COP1 after you take a picture of what's actually programmed in there. Because sometimes in jobs, you guys might not have the same programming as what you do on the prints to what you actually have programmed out in the field. Maybe someone before came in and added more programming to it. So always take a picture before you delete it and then send it. That way we can just program it back in later. So we want to see for this issue, we want to see if there's an issue with that port on the car top board. All right. So you delete everything from COP1. We can go to COP3. Add those COP boards back. You don't have to program anything. So send it and then plug out of ICE motion in on here. So that wire was going to ICE COP1 port out of the car top board first. Now we're going to take it out of there and put it into 3. Do a computer reset. Do a reset on all the COP boards and see if you're just communicating with those boards and no more issues. Then we know we have an issue with the car top board. If you're able to resolve that, you can let it run like that temporarily, but I would recommend getting a new car top board in line in case it fully faults out with all those COP ports being bad. Hopefully this video helped. We went to the diagnostics, LEDs, the cables. Make sure if you guys are going to swap cables, if you guys figured out if it's a cable issue, make sure it's swapped with the same cable. They usually have the part number on those cables as well. Power voltages as well. One thing, if you guys are still running into issues, you guys replace the car top board, replace COP boards, the cables. Very rarely I've seen it like once or twice, or an issue with it was a field connections causing that issue. So what you could also do is remove your field inputs and outputs from the COP board right here. Remove those. All right, and then reset everything. If you're communicating, then that's when you need to get deep in and start checking your groundings, because that could definitely be an issue with the field wiring as well. So yeah, hopefully this issue has helped. These are our recommendations that we would like to begin with. If you're still having issues, go ahead and contact us at MCE Help through email or call into the main line at MCE and then we can go follow up with you on there. Hopefully this video has helped. Have a great day.